I'm also a champion for the entrepreneur. I think entrepreneurs are society's greatest heroes. You know what I mean? Every good thing in our world happens because an entrepreneur has a dream and follows that dream. And it's my belief that entrepreneurs need all the support they can get because the forces of the culture right now are arrayed against the entrepreneur, against the businessman, against the businesswoman. Business is not about money, it's about people. When you solve problems for people, you have the privilege of making a profit.
I like that.
Problems, people, profit. And the problems can't be small problems. They have to be acute problems for awesome people. And that'll get you an amazing profit.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Investor Financing Podcast. We have a great show set for you today. We're going to meet with Nikki. Good to have you on the show. Today's show, we're gonna dive into clarifying your message. What did we say right before we went live? Because I said authority, but we said we're going to talk about
thought leadership.
Thought leadership. It's a better positioning than being an authority in the space. Because the reason I said authority is because most of us, we hear that coined term authority, right? And we want to be the authority. So I'm a commercial mortgage advisor, for example. I want to be the authority in the space, but I'm interested to get some more perspective. You have a really interesting background. You have your podcast, which is called the Thought Leader Revolution. You've interviewed like some huge people, like Barbara Corcoran from Shark Tank and John Maxwell, all these huge people. So that's awesome that you've gotten to interview such wise people out there, and we get the privilege of having you on the show. So guys, stay tuned. This is going to be an excellent episode. We're going to talk about a lot of things that I think that are very important for entrepreneurs out there like ourselves that are in the real estate space and the entrepreneurial world, the business world. So Nikki, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining.
Brother, thanks for having me on the show. It's an honor to be here. Let's get after it. I'm ready to roll. First
of all, thank you for joining us, but walk me back to like how you got into this space where you're at, because you have your group called the eCircle Academy.
Yeah.
How did this all transpire, and what was your background that led this into who you are today?
Great question. So I'm actually originally an immigrant from the Middle East. I'm a Christian from Iran. When I was 11 years old, the Islamic Revolution took place in Iran, Beau, and my late father, God rest his soul, he could see the writing on the wall that this was not going to be a great place to raise his Christian family. So Dad made a plan, and he got us out of Iran and settled us eventually in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, where I now live. I thank God every single day for my father and his foresight, because he took us out of tyranny and he brought us to freedom. And, you know, there's a lot of folks who were born here, and God bless them for being born here, but they don't appreciate how precious freedom is the way someone like me who grew up without it does. And as a result, my bedrock philosophy of life is that of a champion for freedom, free expression, and free enterprise. That's the trinity of freedom as far as I'm concerned. Without a bedrock of freedom, it's impossible for you as a business owner to create a life of your dreams and a business of your dreams, because free enterprise is impossible. So, you know, if the forces of socialism, for example, get to take over, we're all toast. We're not going to be able to have the ability to do what we're currently now doing. So I'm a champion for that. And I'm also a champion for the entrepreneur. I think entrepreneurs are society's greatest heroes. You know what I mean? Every good thing in our world happens because an entrepreneur has a dream and follows that dream. And it's my belief that entrepreneurs need all the support they can get because the forces of the culture right now are arrayed against the entrepreneur, against the businessman, against the businesswoman. And so we need to create our own alternative culture that is in favor of all that. And my dad was an entrepreneur. He was an uplifter of human beings. If you knew my dad, brother, and you were looking for work, He would make calls and get you a job. If you were looking to start a business, he'd sit down with you. He'd bring other experts and rich business people there and bring investors to the table so you could get that business going. And if you were looking to buy a car, a house, or an apartment, and you didn't quite have enough money, Dad would top you up so you could buy that car, that house, that apartment. And you might think to yourself, what? Who does that, Nicky? Well, the late, great Napoleon Billou, for one. And why would he do that? Well, first of all, he was a devout Christian, and he believed he'd been blessed by God, and it was his duty to share those blessings with everybody else. And secondly, he did it because he could. He had the financial wherewithal to be able to be of service to others. That was my dad. That was who he was. That was the kind of man he was. That was the kind of entrepreneur he was. He used to tell me all the time, son, remember, life is not about money. It's about people. Business is not about money. It's about people. When you solve problems for people, you have the privilege of making a profit.
I like that.
Problems, people, profit. And the problems can't be small problems. They have to be acute problems for awesome people. And that'll get you an amazing profit. That's really the privilege that you get to work with. And my father was a big champion of that. That informed me. That's what got me into business and entrepreneurship in the first place. I wanted to be like Dad, brother. I wanted to be one of those folks who was an uplifter of people. And when I got into business, I got into the business of serving other entrepreneurs. I believe in the majesty of the entrepreneur and the glory of their dreams, and I want to help them crush it. Nothing makes me happier than when I help an entrepreneur double his income, tenfold his income, 100-fold his income. I want to see him win. That's important to me. You know what I'm trying to say here, brother? Yes. That really is, in a nutshell, the background of Nicky Billou.
I love it. Thank you for sharing. So can we dive into it a little bit? What's the framework of how you're helping entrepreneurs in this space? What's the framework that you believe is the kind of the answer to most entrepreneurs that are out there? Maybe they're very successful, but they're missing something, or maybe they're just starting out. Where do you start with them?
Well, if someone's just starting out as an entrepreneur, they need to read this book of mine, which is called The Thought Leader's Journey. It is told in the form of a fable, and it basically lays out someone who's in corporate looking to start their first business. It goes into everything in there. You need to read this book because it'll give you everything you got. Now, you can buy this book or you can get it for free as a Kindle download. If you like, I can give you a link right now so anybody can download it for free who's listening to the show.
Please do.
eCircleacademy.com/TLJ book. TLJ for Thought Leader's Journey. That's the name of the book. TLJ book. Now it's for sale on Amazon. If you want to pay for it and get it in hard copy, God bless your heart. But you can get a Kindle copy for free just by going to eCircleacademy.com/TLJ book. Inside this book, if you're beginning out in business, these are the things that it's going to tell you to do. One is it's going to tell you to take a hard look at what you want to do. You got to face the hard truths. Then you got to get rid of the doubts, because doubt kills the warrior or the warrior kills the doubt. And it also says, create a niche, create a niche. You can't be all things to all people. You can't go after everybody. You got to be known for solving one problem better than anybody else, right? And you got to be seen as the preeminent person in your space. You got to pursue a strategy of preeminence, and you got to be generous. There are 4 qualities every human being needs to have to be successful at anything, business in particular, but at anything. Quality number 1 is decisiveness. You got to be decisive. Decide comes from the word, decisiveness comes from the word decide. And decide as its root has side, the word side. It's a Latin word that means to kill. Decide is to kill off the alternative to everything else. What other words have side in them? Homicide, suicide, genocide. All are words about killing. Deciding is killing off the alternative to what you are deciding to do. You cannot be one of these people with one foot in and one foot out. You got to decide. You got to be all in. That's number 1, right? You know, the great Napoleon Hill, the author of the single biggest selling personal development book of all time, Think and Grow Rich, baby, sold 150 million copies. When he was getting his start in life as a young man. He was a newspaper reporter back in the day when that was an honorable profession, when they actually tried to get the facts. He was told by his editor, Napoleon, I need you to go interview the richest man in the world, Mr. Andrew Carnegie, the founder of U.S. Steel. And he's like, all right, I'm going to do it. He went there, interviewed the great man at his palatial estate. And at the end of the interview, Andrew Carnegie said to him, Mr. Hill, how would you like to spend the weekend with me at my estate? I would like to talk to you further. Now, I don't know about you, Beau, but if the richest man in the world today, if the great Elon Musk said to me, Nikki, how would you like to spend the weekend at my estate? I would like to talk to you further. You know what I'd say? Heck yes, I'm in. Let's roll. And that's what Napoleon Hill said. They spent that weekend together, and it was an incredible weekend. Incredible conversations got had. And by the end of their time together, Andrew Carnegie said, Mr. Hill, I have a proposition for you. How would you like to spend the next 20 years researching and writing a book about my philosophy of success? I will pay you no stipend, i.e., you're on your own in terms of getting paid. But what I will do is I will give you letters of introduction to the 500 richest and most successful men and women in these here United States. What say you? Napoleon Hill thought about it for 31 seconds. That number will become relevant soon, and said, I'm in. The rest is history. He did the research, interviewed the peeps, wrote the book. Many years later, he went to visit the great man one last time before he passed. And you know what the great man said to him when they were reminiscing? He said, Mr. Hill, when you came to visit me all those years ago, and I made that proposition to you, I had in my hand a watch, this watch, as a matter of fact, with a second hand. It was under the table, and I was looking at it, and I had given you 60 seconds to make up your mind. And if you had not made up your mind within 60 seconds, I was going to pull the offer. And he said, oh, pull the offer. All right, very good. Why? He said, well, you've been studying my philosophy of success. Indeed, why? You tell me. He said, okay. Successful people are decisive people. He said, yes. A successful person, a successful man, a successful woman gathers all the facts quickly and decides within seconds. While the unsuccessful are indecisive, and they dilly and they dally, and that's why they are unsuccessful. He said, before I approached you, I had approached 4 of the most eminent educators in the United States, made them the same proposition. All of them said, I need to think about it. 2 of them never got back to me, and the other 2 got back to me later than they said they would, and they said no. And I knew they were the wrong people, because successful people are decisive people. They're in or they're out, but fast. Decisiveness. Second, commitment. Every master was once a disaster. You must be willing to be a disaster before you can be a master. You must be willing to suck at something before you can be bad at something, before you can be mediocre at something, before you can be average at something, before you can be decent at something, before you can be good at something, before you can be great at something, before you can be iconic at something, before you can be the best that ever was at something. Commitment. Third, you got to be coachable. Robin Sharma once said, if you ever want to double your income in a given year, triple your investment in personal and professional development, you need to hire the coaches and pay what they ask. You need to join the masterminds and the peer groups and pay what they ask. You need to attend the conferences and pay what they ask. You need to do the courses and pay what they ask. And you need to read the books and pay what they ask. You got to do it. And then finally, you got to be resourceful. Tony Robbins once said, doesn't matter how much resources you have, it matters how resourceful you are. How bad do you want change? And I'm going to tell you a story from my life. A little over 10 years ago, my then wife, seemingly out of the blue, decided she didn't want to be married to me. I was devastated. I spiraled badly. I should have maybe seen it coming, but I didn't. I was sleeping on my mother's couch. I had not made an income in months. A friend of mine got me a ticket to a business conference, and I went to it. A man delivered a talk, and boy, did that talk speak to me, spoke to my soul, resonated. At the end of the talk, I bounded over to him, and I shook his hand, and I introduced myself, and I told him my story. And at the end of it, I said, I think I need to hire you. He said, oh, you do, huh? He said, okay. What you do need to know, though, is that my minimum fee is $5,000 to work with someone. That's for 5 hours of my time. Remember, this was over 10 years ago. And I require payment upfront and in full. I don't offer any guarantees or any refunds. You still want to work with me, son? I'm like, I don't have that kind of money. He said, I'm going to do you a favor. I'm going to give you some free coaching. Free coaching. I love free coaching. Give me the free coaching. He said, hey, it doesn't matter how much money you have. I said, it doesn't? Well, I thought that was all that mattered because you want $5,000 from me. He said, no, it doesn't. And he said, son, I don't need your $5,000. I got a lineup of people who need to work with me and want to work with me. I don't need your money. You, on the other hand, need what I have to offer you. You need salvation. You need to get out of this hellhole you're in. You're sleeping on your mother's couch. Your wife kicked you to the curb. You are not seeing your sons, and you are not providing for your family. You feel like a loser. How much longer are you willing to tolerate this? A day? A week? A month? A year? 5 years? Or maybe longer than that? And I was like, damn, I did not want to hear this, but he was right. I said, give me a couple of days. I made an appointment to go see him. At the time, I was a personal fitness trainer. And I had a couple of folks I'd been in conversation with who had said neither yes nor no to me. And so what I did is I called them with some urgency. And here's what I said to each of them. I got good news for you. I said, hey, what's the good news? You're fat and you need to lose weight, or you're going to have a health event that could really mess you up. They're like, okay. And I'm broke and I need money so I can take care of my family, feed my sons and see them. They said, yeah, okay. And I said, so I'm going to give you the deal of a lifetime, half price. But here's the catch. The deal ends at the end of this call. You got to say yes now. You got to pay me in full now. What's it going to be? Yes or no? They both said yes. They gave me $1,000 each. I'm pleased as punch. I go see this guy a couple days later, $2,000. I drop it on the table, grinning from ear to ear. He looks at the money. He looks at me and he goes, thank you. That's great. But I said 5, not 2. My energy just collapsed. So I asked him, I said, hey, Bill, his name was Bill. I said, Bill, how many times have you told this story to people? He said, over the years, 30, maybe 40. I go, wow, that's a lot. I said, besides me, who else came back with any money? He said, oh, that's easy. You're the very first. I go, I'm the very first. You are the very first. The very first. The very first. I go, take my $2,000. I'm going to sign a contract saying I'll pay you the rest in 30, 60 days, whatever the case may be. And let's get started. I want change bad. Brother, the rest is history. He agreed. I paid him off early, and I made 6 figures in 6 months, and I was no longer this broken down loser.
Wow. That's
How
strong.
bad do you want change, brother? That's what folks need to understand. You need to want this. You need to be ready for this. It must grab your soul. And you need to no longer be a willing participant in Generation Soft. The great David Goggins says, today is the age of Generation Soft. And if you want to win in life, you got to resign from Generation Soft. You got to join Generation Hard. You got to push yourself out of your comfort zone. You got to do more than you think you can. You got to push. You got to want it. You got to desire it like nobody's business. If you want to be a thought leader, one of the things that's going to make you a thought leader is to stand out. What's the difference between an expert and a thought leader? An expert's someone who knows something. Experts are a dime a dozen. A thought leader is someone who's known for knowing something. Thought leaders are rare and valuable. One of the things you want to be known for is a no-quit dude who's going to get up and do the uncommon things, who's going to push himself, who's going to get going when nobody else will. The great Kobe Bryant would get up at 3 a.m. to shoot 8,000 basketballs by 8 a.m. when everybody else started their workouts. That's why he's one of the top 10 players of all time.
Hi, this is Beau, host of the Investor Financing Podcast. Are you a real estate investor with properties and you're trying to figure out how to refinance or grow your existing real estate business? Need some clarity and a game plan for moving forward? I'm offering a free strategy call where we dive deep on your real estate investing goals. I'll help you come up with a strategic finance plan that will help you get to where you want to go. Whether you've got a portfolio of 30 properties or you're starting out with your first property, I have a framework that has helped many investors grow. If you're interested, book a call below in the Calendly link. So was Bill's program, his coaching that he did, was that the game changer, or was the game changer that you came back with the $2,000 that really made the biggest impact?
Brother, the biggest impact was me making a decision that I was no longer willing to tolerate the crappy situation I was in. Bill's program was great, don't get me wrong, but it was me that was the difference. It was my attitude shifting. There have been other people who've been in Bill's program who've gotten zero results. Zero results. Because their attitude and their mindset wasn't that of, I want change and I want it bad and I want it now. That's the first thing anybody needs. Now, the program was great. I don't want to pretend the program had nothing to do with my success. It had a lot to do with my success at the time. But what I learned from that was I learned how to create my own program. And I did. And I started to help people have that attitude of a warrior. And I started to help people learn how to become a thought leader and not remain an undifferentiated expert. You got to get out of the sea of sameness. You got to go into the oasis of differentiation. And how do you do that? That is such a good question. Well, first and foremost, remember, it's not about you, it's about them. You got to be helping people because that's someone's brother, that's someone's father, that's someone's son. That's someone's husband, that's someone's wife, someone's mother, someone's daughter, someone's sister. That is somebody who has hopes, fears, aspirations. They've been disappointed by life. They've maybe even been disappointed by someone just like you who made them big promises and delivered them squat. So that's step one in being a thought leader. Care about your fellow man and woman. Step two, learn how to stand out. People think, oh, I just need a good message, good positioning. Well, if there's no stake behind the sizzle, that's not going to be good because you're not going to deliver anything for people. I don't believe in sizzle selling. I sell steak, brother. You know what I'm talking about? You bite into what I give you, you're going to just bite into some juicy, medium rare strip loin steak, brother, from one of the best cuts of beef on the planet. You're not going to be biting into some sizzle that's going to burn your tongue and burn your mouth. And that's important. So I had a client, okay, phenomenal guy, real estate investor. His name's Victor Menashe. He hosts the Real Estate Espresso podcast. Check out his podcast. Really cool guy.
Oh, I really, actually, funny. I had him on my podcast, actually. Victor Menashe. I remember him.
Victor was a client of mine for 4 years. When I met Victor, he was successful. He made 6 figures and he had a whole bunch of property, but he was doing 5 and 10 unit deals. I helped Victor learn what it is to be a thought leader. I helped Victor get clear on who he wanted to work with. He wanted to work with people with 50 doors. He didn't want to work with newbies. He wanted to work with people with 50 doors and get them to 500. And he wanted to do 500,000, 10,000 unit deals, not 10 unit deals. We helped Victor position himself in that way. He wrote a book called Magnetic Capital. He created the Real Estate Espresso podcast through my urging. And brother, Victor went from 6 figures a year to 7 figures a year. This is on his consulting income. He went from doing 10-unit deals. He's doing a thing in Colorado right now that's 10,000 units. That's what thought leadership can do for you if you're in real estate, you're an investor, you're a mortgage broker, you're a realtor. And that's how powerful it can be. Victor stood out. People lined up to work with him, lined up. That's the power of thought leadership and a thought leader brand.
That's really inspiring. I love the story that you told, and I was wondering how you had that energy too. I was wondering if that's some kind of coffee you're drinking or something. You got a lot of energy.
I don't drink coffee, brother. Don't drink caffeine at all. I lift weights. I eat clean. I live clean. That's how come I got energy.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I do like caffeine, but I pretty healthy. I work out every morning. I'm up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I like the grit. I like the decisions. I think that's the most people's roadblocks in life. Like, you hit rock bottom and you snapped essentially, and you realized you needed to do something because there was no more going down. You were probably at your all-time low, right? You weren't working, you weren't making any money. And then you happened to be at a conference and you heard this guy speak, and you pretty much snapped at that time. And from there, you didn't look back. And so what do you do when you're not at rock bottom, right? But you're not living where you should live, right? Like you're not building the calluses, like you're almost too soft, right? You're sure. I understand the whole rock bottom thing. Like, there's only one way you can go. You're either going to be a loser and fail, or you're going to go. And like, I see that happening, but I see this whole group in the middle, right? And they've become soft. They didn't come from Iran, right? They've lived their middle class life their whole life, right? Maybe they're in their W-2 job and they're middle of the age. They're 40 something years old, and they're like, shoot. They wake up one day and go, I'm middle aged, and I've never achieved my goals, right? I think those people are hard to snap because they're almost like content, right? So what's your advice on people like that? Like the content, they're doing okay.
Resign from Generation Soft. Look in the mirror and tell yourself, I was meant for more. I was meant for more. I am no longer content with being average and mediocre and a loser. Because let's face it, they are losers. They just don't want anybody else to know that's what they think of themselves. They're going to pretend they're not. But that's how they feel. Or be content with being a loser and stay there. It's up to you. It's not for me to tell you what to do. It's for you to make a decision. Who do I want to be? What do I want to do with the rest of my life? Okay. Victor Menashe, when he came to me, was already successful. He had not been rock bottom. He made money. He had money. But he wanted more. And he was willing to do what it took. I coached him for 3 years, and then he signed up for my thought leadership program for another year on top of that. By the time all that was over, Victor went from successful to very successful. From being, good to being one of the best. And that's what you got to want. That is a desire that has to come from within. But it's not going to come if you let the culture dictate who you're going to be. If you let comfort be your God. Ed Mylett says, comfort and greatness cannot coexist. You got to pick. You got to pick. Comfort can feel good in the moment, but when you look back, you're going to be ticked off with yourself that you picked comfort over greatness.
I agree. Totally agree. So eCircle talk about the eCircle Academy. What do people do? They register. What does that look like for somebody that's...
So 4 times a year, we do a 3-day branded thought leader immersion workshop. That's where you get a decade's worth of progress in terms of your thought leader brand in a few days. And what that does is it shows you how to commercialize the genius that you have. So there's a lot of folks who put themselves out there and they have podcasts as an example, right? Or they're a guest on podcasts. And it's great that they're doing it. They don't make a penny from it. Not 1 cent. They go on show after show after show and they never make any money. Me, I've been going on shows since June of last year, and I've generated over $330,000 in revenue from those appearances. From having my own show, I've generated over $3.5 million in revenue from having my own show. Why? Because my show is designed to attract people to what I do and how I help them. And I go on shows not to have a great conversation, but to create business opportunities. And I've cracked the code, and I show people how to do it. I show my clients how to do all that. It's powerful stuff. People are still trying to do what worked before the pandemic started. You know, they're still trying to do launches. They're still trying to do paid traffic. Paid traffic's great, but unless you're ready to spend 60 grand this year on paid traffic, it's not going to work for you. And a lot of folks don't have 60 grand to spend, or they think it's a big risk to take 60 grand and put it into paid traffic. With podcasting, you could do it without spending a penny as a guest. Not a penny. If you have your own show, you can do your own show for as little as $1,000 a month. You could do it for $500 a month if you're willing to do everything yourself. You don't hire somebody to do all the stuff for you. That's the beauty of that. Right? And people need to understand that having a show doesn't make you an authority. Writing a book doesn't make you an authority. You need a powerful message, a message that solves a problem for a group of people that need that problem solved yesterday. If you don't have that, you're not going to be an authority. You're not going to be a thought leader. Thought leadership is about helping people solve real problems, problems that can't solve without someone else's help. If it's a problem you could solve on your own, you're going to solve it on your own.
And your problem, you solve the mindset problem. It sounds like is the biggest thing. Like most people are stuck, right? And they just don't know how to be unstuck.
Brother, we totally solve the mindset problem, but we do a lot more than that. We help you create your own IP. This is an example of IP. This is a folder of IP right here, brother. You know, all the IP in here is the basis of a book, is the basis of a 3-day workshop, is the basis of a talk, is the basis of a 12-month coaching program or 12-month mastermind program. All of that's in here. All the content's in here. I show you how to develop that and get it monetized. We show you how to get clear on who your ideal client ought to be. We show you how to have steak. This is steak. It's not sizzle. You're not going to go in there and just get really good at persuading somebody to give money to you and deliver them nothing. You're going to deliver them exactly what they need so they win. You're going to give people ROI. This allows you to add a 0 or 2 to your income now, today. One of the biggest problems people have in our industries, brother, is they don't charge enough. They undervalue themselves. You notice that? People don't charge enough. Why do they do that? There's only 2 reasons they do that. One is they don't think they're worth it. That could be a mindset issue, or maybe they're not worth it. We got to solve that one way or another. Secondly, they think they're worth it, but I don't think anybody will pay. You know why they think that? Because they're putting all the attention on them. Are they going to like me? They're going to want to pay. Says, no, stop. People aren't buying their way into your program. They're buying their way out of their hell. They're not buying their way into your program. They're buying their way out of their hell. Write this down. People don't buy their way into something. They buy their way out of something, which means you've got to charge in a way. You don't want to gouge, but you want to charge in a way that gives you leverage over that person so they do what they have to do to get the result. Let's say you're a wealth coach and you're going to show me how to make money from investing in real estate. And I'm excited. I want to work with you. And I go, okay, Beau, how do we do this? You go, great, Nikki. I got a 2-year-long program. It's great. And I charge $500. I'm like, what? $500? Are you kidding me? $500. That should be like 10 minutes of your time if you really are going to make me wealthy, right? It doesn't make sense. People aren't going to trust that you have the goods. Now, if you said $50,000, yeah, I'd trust you then. I might want a better deal than that, but I'd trust that you know what you're doing. because you're charging based on the value of the outcome you're providing for me. I had a client. I'm going to tell you about this client, man. Great guy, real estate investor. And he made a lot of money as an investor, but he wanted his own real estate club, okay? He wanted his own real estate investment club. And he'd made himself a multimillionaire several times over. Do you know what he charged to join his real estate investment club, where he's going to teach you how to be a multimillionaire? $1,200 a year. I was like, what? You're going to show these guys how to be multimillionaires for $1,200 a month? Oh my God. I said, no. He said, no, Nicky, no one's going to pay. I go, no, dude, 25 grand. And then we're going to make it 100 grand. But 25 grand, that's what you need to charge. Otherwise, no one's taking you serious. Doctor who's successful coming to you and you're charging him $1,200 a year is going to go, this guy's, he's a joke. He's not for real. You charge him 25 grand, he's going to pay you and he's going to take you serious. He got more people who paid him 25 grand than he got people who pay him 1,200. More people were willing to pay 25 grand than 1,200. Why, Beau? Tell me why you think that is.
Because they made a big investment for them and they took it seriously. They took it seriously, right? Like if you invest a couple $100, oh, it was a shitty investment, I shouldn't have done it. Like that's what they're thinking in the back of their mind. If nothing comes out of it, I've only lost $1,200 for the year. Not a huge deal. 25 grand is, I gotta like, listen.
I gotta win. I gotta win.
Yeah.
That's why. And people trusted that he knew what he was doing at 25 grand, and they didn't trust him at 1,200. They thought he was full of crap. They thought it was a money grab at 1,200, and they were happy to pay it 25 grand.
Yeah. No, it makes me rethink. Like I do from my YouTube channel, my podcast, my show. I have free calls for people. They can spend 15 minutes with me, and it often makes me think like I probably shouldn't do that. One is that's out of 10 that book a calls, 2 of them no show, right? Like that's a slap in the face. Like, hey, I'm making time for you on my calendar, and you don't respect that, right? So I should immediately say, hey, if you want to book a call, it's going to cost you X amount of dollars. Because it's like the happy medium. I love helping people, whether I can solve their loan problem right now. I can at least give them the good advice. I got some calluses from the gym today. I was doing some kettlebell work. There you go. You got to have calluses here and here, right? As David Goggins says.
Callous your mind.
Callous the mind. I love David Goggins. God, you got to get him on the podcast. I just listened to his second book. Is your book on Audible, by the way? Please, Audible.
They're not Audible yet. My latest book is going to go on Audible. We're just starting to record it, but I have to go back to the back catalog and do that.
You should read it too. I like what Goggins does.
I read Goggins' book. I read it in 2 days.
I listened to it on Audible because he talks between the chapters. And that's really powerful, like the thought process of that chapter. I don't know. So I'm more I like to listen, but I should be a reader too. I know it's good for the brain and all that stuff.
It is.
But anyways, this has been really good. I mean, I almost felt like I got a good slap in the face today from you in a good way, a good slap in the face. And I deliver steak. I'm a ribeye guy, perfectly cooked ribeye, Delmonico or whatever it's called. Yes,
Delmonico's, baby. Love Delmonico's.
Yeah. Like, I think there was a lot of good takeaways from this. I think, like if somebody's watching this, I think your presence is very strong. They're going to be like, man, it was intense. I was like sitting there like, this is intensity. I felt the intensity you had, which is good. I think people need to be more intense in life, right? And you gotta make that decision. So where's the best place for people to find out about your programs, about you, about your books, about where do we send them?
Okay. So I'm going to answer that question in a multi-layered way. Okay. So layer number 1 is, if you want to just check me out, Nicky Billou on any, search engine, or go to Amazon. All my books are there, and the podcast, all that's free. If your heart's content. But if you're one of those men and women who's in that phase I was in back then, and the answer is in your mind, I want change bad, then this is what you're going to do. You're going to go to eCircleacademy.com/appointment. And you're going to book a success call. And I give that away for free right now. But I only give it away for free once you fill out a screening application form. And I need to see by the answers you give that you want change bad. You got to say in the last line, I want change bad. And I'll give you 45 minutes of my time. I'll build your group. And you better show up to the call. If you book that call and you don't show up, then I'll charge you $300 no-show fee. If you're there, it's free. All right.
That's perfect. That's the way to do it. Yeah. Nikki, I really appreciate you on the show. It was, like I said, you were very intense. You delivered a strong message, which I took to heart. And I think most people that are going to watch this in the future or listen to it on Libsyn or audio, whatever, it's I think it really kind of is going to strike a nerve with a lot of people out there, whether you have success right now, but you're really, even with mediocre success, you don't want to look back when you're older and say, I wish I could have done, I wish I would have done that. And I think it's strong, very strong message. And thank you for sharing it with our audience. I appreciate you. Look forward to reading your book and getting it on audio at some point too.
God bless your heart, brother. Thanks so much for having me on the show. It was an honor to be here, and looking forward to doing more stuff with you, bro.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. Be sure to subscribe and like the channel, and we'll bring on great guests as usual. See you on the next one. Hey guys, Beau here. If you enjoyed what you saw, please subscribe to this channel. We talk all things financing. I've been in the lending industry for over 20 years, and I'm happy to answer your questions and provide great content.